Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, TA Simplified, the stopgap to meet your Army tuition assistance challenges. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. This presentation is being recorded. Resources will be available on the MEC website post-event. And please submit your questions in the question and answer box, not the chat. The question and answer box will keep track of everyone's questions and the answers that are submitted for those. So we have a nice collection. And please complete our survey after the webinar so we can get more information on topics and issues that you would like to learn more about. My name is Sarah Pell, and I am MEC's Associate Director for Policy Initiatives. I've been working at MEC for 6 years and working with military-connected students for over 20. I'm not going to tell you then how old that makes me. I'll let you do the math. A little bit about MEC. MEC stands for the Midwestern Higher Education Compact. It was legislatively created in around, I think, 1991, when the top selling album of all year was Nevermind by Nirvana. Just some trivia. So it was legislatively created and actually serves the Midwest census region. So the 12 states that are shown on the map. We really do a lot of work in convening and bringing people together and kind of matchmake with folks at institutions, state agencies, federal agencies, other not-for-profit agencies and organizations relating to promising practices, policies, really around the success of military-connected students, as well as other topics such as cost savings, student health, and technology. If you would like some more information on our military-connected resources, please go to our website. We've got currently 34 webinars that have been recorded and are available for you to look at anytime. And if you want to be kept in the loop, what we're doing here at MEC related with military-connected students, please sign up and subscribe to the mailing list. And that way you'll get additional information on upcoming webinars. And we're working on a Q1 newsletter for the new fiscal year. So if you're interested, please sign up. I'm really happy to have this webinar. It's something that you have asked for, and I'm happy to provide. Today, we've got some excellent experts. First of all, we've got Stephanie Kahn, who is the Army School Support Project Manager at Vantage Point. And joining us, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Mr. Joshua Ryder, who's the Executive Director for the Center for Adult and Veteran Services at Kent State, as well as Rick Williams, who is the Associate Director, Office of Veterans Affairs at Youngstown State University. So Ohio is greatly represented on this webinar today. And as a bonus, we have Jacqueline Smith-Morris. So Jacqueline, would you say a little bit about what you do and introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Smith-Morris, and I'm with Access Army U. You should be familiar with Army University because we are the ones that manage the Army Tuition Assistance Program. And Stephanie King is going to be able to tell you a lot more about how to make it much easier to use Army Ignited in a few moments.
Okay, Stephanie, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I appreciate everyone for attending and especially for inviting me. I have been with this project. Well, I've been with school support for a lot more years than I'd like to say, but previous to that, I worked in the universities and college systems. So a lot of my background is admissions and advising, but in those roles, as most of you know, you become the jack of all trades, understanding how the entire university system works. So I bring that background, and I always like to point that out so that you as my school partners understand that I've sat in your seat. I know. And so a lot of what I'm presenting today came out of those experiences of sitting in your seat and realizing some of the frustration points that you all have experienced over the last year and almost a half-ish. Army is a great partner and a great supporter of all of you. And so I know Jackie's on the call as well. And I know I'm not overspeaking to say that they thank you all. And so because of hearing and listening Army did come out to Vantage Point. I work for Vantage Point Consulting. We are a consulting firm that has the Army School Support contract. We are not Deloitte. I am not technical. So a lot of times I hear technical things. I can do enough to get myself in trouble, but for the most part, we are not that technical. Although I have a lot of people at Vantage Point who assisted in building some really cool things that I'm going to show you all today. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. And I want to be able to, and hopefully, Rick, if you'll give me a nod, can you see the knowledge community screen? Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you all today is some of the tools that the school support team has put together to assist schools. So the first one I always like to point out is we now have what they call, or what we call, a knowledge community. It is called Army School Support Knowledge Community, but you know what? If you start to make an acronym, we dropped the first part. So there you go. We're going after it as Knowledge Community. This is a great resource. If you have not already joined, there is a simple link, and I'll get that for you all. It's through a company called Mighty Networks, and we can get you the links and get you signed up and in here. But a lot of folks are a little overwhelmed when they first come in because we have been using this since September. There's about 3,000, almost 3,500 school users, as well as headquarters, access, and Army school support. Those are the folks who interact within this site. And it's a great place to ask questions. Your colleagues and peers will be able to answer you based on their experiences. My team is sitting in there as well and will offer up. And then headquarters access actually does monitor this site, and they can see what's going on. They can see where schools are maybe having some frustration points, and it allows us to tailor different conversations, webinars, trainings, any of that towards what's going on with our schools. Couple of things that I do want to point out is when you first come in, there's this box right here on the top, share what's on your mind. If you start typing in a question, it will start populating through, and here's one that a school put in. Is there a way to change a soldier's home of record in Army Ignite, and what does that even mean, home of record? So one of our school partners, Mindy, has provided an answer. My team will go through and read through these. So you'll see here, we also put what we call posts, knowledge posts, so that we can give you helpful information, things you need to be aware of, a lot of things that slip through the cracks. We're going to put out reminders. Please upload your degrees. If you have uploaded them, maybe you've had some changes this year. That's this time of year. So we want to put out helpful information. We started when we first did this, we were doing comments or posts every day. We've backed off. We do them now as specifically needed, but at least once or twice a week. So all of these, though, when you post something in, these are our featured ones. So please submit your enrollment files. You can scroll through. The ETP Draw 5, that's a hot one right now, officially began today. I had to think, what is today's date? The 30th. So you may start seeing these exception to policies. That's what ETP Draw stands for. I know a lot of folks aren't really familiar with ETP, and that's just for classes that had a past start date, that they'll make them through the system so we can get you to invoicing and payment. So let's say you want to go through here and you're like, well, what about if I just want to look at topics? If you click on the topic on the left, you'll see that there's different topics that have been put out there. So we did a drop-in session. We'll be doing one again in July around the 21st. If you want to attend, you can just click on here and it should pop up with the information. There's the one we did in June. There's information about it in a recording. We always post things under events. Sorry, the ding dong is through Mighty Networks. We are offering some grade file demos right now. So if you start getting in, you're like, hey, I need some extra information. So one immediately following this call, there's another one July 14th. And then July 21st is the Q&A. You can register for the event right here just by clicking on it. Going, maybe not going to be able to. And then it'll add to your calendar. It'll give you the link so that you can join that call. The other item that I want to make sure I take time to point out is our resources. If you want to know what headquarters is letting information out, especially with everything going on with transitions, please go to the headquarters messages and you'll see a list of the messages. And then you see we usually put the dates so you know what's the last one that we've posted. Training videos. This is a great one if you're not sure how to do something, you're new to Army Ignited, etc. We put all of these in here, and how to create accounts in TA Simplified, how to reset and change your passwords. We give you a little quick training of how-to guides and or videos if we have them made yet. And then lastly, and before I move on, we do have a link to TA Simplified, which I do have up. So this here will give you a lot of the information that many schools ask us about as they're moving forward through the system. Lastly, we prefer that you ask the question in the general community. That's so that anyone and everyone can see that question, because normally if you have that question, so do 4 or 5 of your other colleagues. So if you put it out there, then you'll actually see the information and other people can glean from that as well. But if you're running into any kind of concerns where you need to reach one of my team directly, this double little chat bubble up at the top will actually do a direct message. I have one sitting in there right now. So you just click on that and then you'll search for the name of the person. And if you've never done one with that person, you'll just do add a chat, search the person's name, and then write your question and I'll go right to that person. You can direct chat anyone, not just my team, anyone who's within the system so that they can answer any questions that you may have. We're really proud of this product. We're proud of what it's been doing. And so we continue to let you all know about it because it really is the best place to get that information that's going on with the systems, what's going on with many, many, many things within Army Ignited and TA. It's not just TA Simplified, it's everything with Army Ignited. I'm going to move over to TA Simplified now. I'm going to shut down the knowledge community. I can always bring it back up, but it has an annoying ding dong. Okay, so the TA Simplified. We created this account or this website on behalf of what we were hearing from schools, and that's primarily that the CSV files that are required within Army Ignited were cumbersome. They took a lot to build, and then oftentimes when you built them, either not because you didn't know or whatever, somehow the file is corrupted, the format is off, leading zeros are dropped off from your OPEID, a multitude of reasons, the files do not go through. And if they're not put through, then that's not going to process through the system. So in hearing all that, we created tasimplified.support. And when you first come in here, if you've never registered for an account, or even if you have an account, the first thing you'll do is go to register. If you do not have an account, you'll start here with this yellow bubble and you'll click register. You will create your own account. I'm in a test account right now, and that's where we'll be working today. You'll put in your name, your school email, and let's say you're unfamiliar with your OPEID. So if you put in Kent State, it will pre-populate for you. When you click on it, it's going to ask you, is this the address? We're pulling this information out of Army Ignited. If that is an address to your school, then yep, that's us. Create your password. Does not have to be an Army Ignited password. Can be any password you want. You'll confirm it, and then you'll create your account. For this purpose, I'm going to use a test account. So everything in here is fake. This is not real soldier information. This is not anything but just made up stuff as I'm typing along. So you'll click login and you'll get a site that looks like this. If this is the first time you've entered our site, we ask that you do the static information button. This is a one-time. We just need this information for building up many of the different files that are in the system. I often get the question, what does rolling or hard mean for a deadline? Most of our schools are rolling deadline. You'll allow students to come in and get admitted, get enrolled, as long as it's done before the start date of the class or hours before the start date of the class in some cases, you're a rolling deadline. Hard deadlines are more of our schools that establish a deadline about 2 or 3 weeks prior to the start date of a semester. They want to know their enrollments, they want to know their students, so they have a very hard set deadline. Some of you may have programs that rotate between different ones. I would suggest picking rolling. We don't do this by specific degree. This is just a generality amongst your entire school. The other question I get a lot is, are you a semester hour or quarter hour? Semester hour is primarily most schools, but we have a lot of quarter hour schools. The biggest thing I can tell you is that you're not quarter hour just because within your semester, your class dates are shortened to maybe an 8-week semester or a mini semester or an intersession or a weekend class. Those are class formats, not your semester or quarter hours. So if when you talk to students, you say you have 5 quarter hours to get on this class, you're a quarter hour. If it's credit or semester hour, your semester hour. It's not based on how length of the course is. This actually will cause a lot of problems. So if you are unsure, check with your registrar, because you need to make sure if you're a quarter hour, we are going to reduce your hours to meet semester hour, which means you'll have a reduced payment. So please make sure you know which one of these two you are. Other than that, CLEPs and Dantes or DSSTs are the same thing. They are tests of knowledge by the student. They can take this test. If they pass it, then you will award credit towards a class. One is more subject-based and one is a little more broad. That's pretty much the biggest difference. Check marks mean yes. No check mark means no. Okay, you'll save that information. Once it's in there, you can go back and edit it if you need to, but otherwise you don't have to go back to number 1 again. Number 2 is building your degree files, the list of degrees your institution offers. Most of you have already completed this task. You may have used this to build out your list, and if you did, and now let's say this Bachelor of Arts is now going to be inactive. You see it was marked active. If you uncheck it as in the box, that means now it's inactive. So if you're teaching out a degree and you no longer want it in your list of degrees for a soldier to pick, then you'll just unclick that box, click save. This file is one of the most forgiving files that I can tell you, in that it doesn't cause duplications. If you submit this file and it's got everything you submitted once before, the system will take it and will mark that as an update. It doesn't do anything to it. It just allows it to go through. So of all the files, I can tell you this one's my favorite because it's less errors that go along with it. To add degrees, you just start with number 1. You'll fill in the information that's required. Remember to check active if this is an active degree. You shouldn't be loading anything that's inactive unless it's already been preloaded. Once you hit save, you'll hit the download degree file, and then we'll go through the process of downloading the degree so that you can upload it to Army Ignited. One thing I always point out is we are not Deloitte, so I don't have school access to be able to upload everybody's files. We don't have a direct connection between TA Simplified and Army Ignited. TA Simplified is just there to help you build the files so that you can be successful when you load them into Army Ignited. Before I show you the download, the last file on here is a reference file. We often get questions from schools, and I'm not sure if you can see my file because I didn't share screen. I will show you these reference files, but the reference file does contain the SIP code and the SIP code title. The SIP code title is what's required for the soldier in order to build an education path. So we give you that information. It's always available as long as you didn't delete any of the degrees so that you have that for record to assist the soldier. Okay. Again, if you've already done your degree file, you can skip that one. The next one I'm going to show is enrollment file. This is how you're going to build your enrollments. For most of you, you should have already been building for those past start dates. We're trying to get you guys now shifted over to submitting your enrollment file at minimum of around 10 days prior to the start date of the class. That is so that it can get into the system and flow through with all the approvals. This weekend is a prime example. Our counselors only work Monday through Friday, just like most of you all. So if you upload a file and a class starts on the 5th of July and you load it now, potentially this won't get through the system. It must go to the soldier first for approval, then to the Army counselor for approval, and then to your queues on the invoice for finance. In order to get there, that takes time. If the counselors are off for the next 3 days, that's delayed on your ability to get these approved. So the earlier, the better. Soldiers can request TA up to 60 days prior. So you have a little bit of a window there. Easiest way to build the enrollment, you go to add enrollment. This is your school ID at your school. Okay, so at your school, you have assigned a number. That is the number we are looking for. If it starts with a special character, when I worked for the University of Central Oklahoma, we used the @ sign and then the number. The @ sign will not work in here, so just use the number. If you use an A, a B, etc., that's fine, but no special characters. On the course ID, because of the way we had to develop this for the back end to fill in, you will need to use a hyphen. So in this example, whoops. Again, this is all made up data. The hyphen does count, no spaces between, just one long string. English composition. You can see we also do predictive typing for you to help. Off post means any classroom location that is not located on a military installation. On post is a military installation. The student, soldier, must have a military ID to get to that classroom. Most of you will be off post. The rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. Credit hours, if you're a quarter-hour school, put how many quarter hours it is. We will convert everything on the back end. So if this is a 5 credit hour class, you'll just put 5. Additional fees for the class. There's a lab fee, a field trip fee, some type of fee that's associated, not your student recreation fees, your parking fees, anything specifically to the class. Army does not pay fees. We only pay tuition only. So this is just information for the soldier to be aware there may be additional costs that they will be required to pay. Start date. So we're going to put in, and you need the dash or the slash sign. And then the end date. Whoops, it didn't like me. There we go. And then you end date. I'm more of a, hey, let me just type it out. But if you like to find the date on here, you are more than welcome to do that. And then you can plug in the date and information that way. Degree level. This happens to be a lower level undergraduate course. So I'll just pick that. Registration date must be prior to the start date of the class. What kind of tuition are we charging the soldier? So we're going to say it's a distance learning. And here, please click here and it will tell you exactly what these different categories mean. In almost every single case, you're going to be enrolled. Okay, first initial enrollment. The soldier later drops it, you can come back, edit the enrollment to dropped, or if they withdrew. Drops are prior to the start date. There's no cost involved. These do not go to invoicing. Withdraws after the start date, and they may possibly have a cost, and these will go to invoicing. The one that gets my schools is completed. Class may be completed at your institution, but that does not mean it is completed at Army Ignited. Completed means we're done. Don't send it to invoicing. This is a class you've loaded to assist a soldier with GPA issues that they may be experiencing. Army requires for undergraduate a 2.0 or higher and graduate a 3.0. If they should drop below, then they are ineligible for TA. We don't want that to be forever. So we may ask you to post a completed course where then you're going to load a grade file in order to show the soldier's Army Ignited GPA is moving up or is now above those minimums. So in this drop down, you're going to want to pick enrolled. You see over here, I have some black boxes with yellow check marks, and you see some that are blank. The blank means this has been downloaded before, and the black box with the yellow check mark means this is a new enrollment that was added, and it has not been downloaded before. I'm going to go ahead and delete the top one just because I'm getting ready to show you what pops up next. There is a, come on, system's running slow. There is a download reference file with this one as well. And I can go ahead and I'll show you all these files here in a second. And then download the enrollment file. Again, we do not save any social security numbers. So you will have to input these each time because we do not save these in our system. So again, this is fake data. You'll click submit. You're going to get a pop-up reminding you of the steps when you get into Army Ignited. You're going to log into Army Ignited. Let's hope it didn't knock me out. You're going to go to degree management. If you utilized our system, I can tell you it validates, okay? You don't need to worry about that. You'll go here to the file type. So this one happens to be course enrollment. I usually like to go to the upload file. If you like the drag and drop option, that works too. But if you go to upload the file, you're going to get the pop-up. Go to your downloads. We have named it the way it needs to be named. Everything is there. You'll click on the file and you'll click open. I can't do that because this is not a test site. This is actually a Army shell, and it will actually go through the system. But you'll get a green check mark and the file name will be there for you. Okay. Lastly, and most importantly, we have been able to, in the last couple of weeks, add the grade file. This is the last file that is there. If you utilized our tool to download the files, they will move over here. In a few minutes, that one we just created will actually pop over here for you as well. Oh, sorry, it won't. It has a future start date. It's looking for past start dates. So if I had used a past start date, it would have moved over here. If you follow the instructions on the top, you'll go to the edit pencil. All the information is preloaded for you. All you have to do is select the grade, including F's, I's, W, and P. If your soldier dropped the class, then it will ask you for the date of withdrawal and also what was the reasoning behind the drop. And so if you just pick, sorry, like I said, I am much better at just typing it in. And I always, because this is about what I heard as an advisor, did not like the teacher. Okay, and save. So all that information is in there. You can manually add grades in here for soldier. Again, your school ID number, the course ID with the hyphen, start date, the grade, and the class reference number. This is information that if you don't have, please reach out through Knowledge Community School Support. If you have one of our emails, just email it to us. We will get you this information. So if you did not use TA Simplified, that's okay. You can actually build the file yourself without having anything to do with TA Simplified prior to your grade file. The other one that we did was we said, well, what happens if they have their enrollment file from what they submitted? If you pull that, it will actually put that. I pulled one that had the past or a future start date. Hold on one second. I actually put a couple in here. There we go. So it pulled from that file and said, okay, there's the information we need. We just need you to go to the pencil. There's all the information pre-populated. If you need to edit anything, you can, but otherwise you're going to pick the grade. So you pick the grade and you hit save. Again, the black box with the yellow check mark means we're going to put that in. If you used TA Simplified, but you deleted your file, but you downloaded that reference file, you can do the same thing with that reference file. It's not going to use that one. Oh, yep, that's the one I want. Sorry. And there's that class from the reference file. Same thing. Go to the edit pencil, drop the grade, hit save. So now you have your different options for pulling in your grades. We tried to work within all the different avenues that we thought, but if for any reason you don't have any of those, reach out to school support. You can easily click the feedback button. It will send an email directly to the team. We will then send you the files so that you have them to build this grade file. And it will give you the class reference, the start date. Everything must match. So we're noticing that in some cases you did a fat finger type and it says EGN instead of ENG. If this is not a match, it will not go through. If your start date's not a match, it won't go through. Or if anything's different with the class reference. So it is important to make sure all of that information is the same off that file. You'll do the same thing, download the grade file. It's going to ask you for these Social Security numbers because again, we don't save those. Now we'll hit submit. You'll get the pop-up. Again, you don't need to validate. You'll go over here to Army Ignited. You'll pick that this is a grade file. You'll go to upload a file, and you will find that file right there. It's already named the way it needs to be named. And then you click open, and it will appear here with a green check mark and the title of the file. There are a few slight bugs. My developer has been on vacation this week. We have discovered, as we discover them, we get them off to the developer and he gets them fixed. So if you see anything didn't work right, please let us know. That's how we know what to fix. Unfortunately, we can't test for every scenario because we don't have access for uploading, et cetera, into the system. So we do the best that we can with what we have. Now that it's live, we're actually able to go through and show everybody, go through and actually do the work. And we're working closely with schools to make sure these files go through. The ones that haven't gone through, there appears to be either a class reference number problem or some of the information didn't match. Again, we have an ability to pull reports. We would love to give schools that ability. It's just not there yet. So the best thing I can tell you is school support's here to help you. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Rick and Joshua because they're actually users just like the rest of you. So if there's things that you want me to point out, gentlemen, let me know. I can continue to share if you want it up, or if you all want to share, I'll stop sharing. I can let you all pull up screens, whatever you would like to do.
Stephanie, we've got a couple questions in our chat, not in the chat, in the question and answer section.
Okay.
One of them is, who do I contact if I've not been able to join the support knowledge community? It says I'm a member, but when I ask to reset my password, I don't receive an email with the password reset. I've tried multiple times. We all have so many passwords to keep track of these days.
Yes.
So, could you tell us maybe what the next steps would be?
So if you're having problems with the password for the knowledge community, and again, our website is vantagepoint-inc.com/Army School Support, takes you to directly to our page or the top right-hand corner. The reason I point this out is there is the TA Simplified links, and then there's a link to knowledge community. However, if you are having struggles with your passwords, etc., my point person for knowledge community is Susan Malozin. So feel free, right here is her email. Send her an email and let her know you need help with login, that you're having problems with that password, and she will assist you. She has figured out every workaround. She's amazing. So all of our emails are here, and we do have one new member I need to add. Her name's Amelia Bennett. So if you see emails from Amelia Bennett, she also is part of the team to help.
Great, thank you. Another question is, what do I use for diploma programs?
So diploma programs, I'm assuming when you say that is more like the certificate programs, because the associates and the bachelor's and the master's would be degrees. So if it is not a certificate and it is an actual diploma, it's more of a licensure or a certification diploma. That would fall under a credentialing assistant. So we'd really have to narrow down exactly what your degree is. The biggest thing with tuition assistants is they have to be college credit bearing courses and transferable, meaning that if these classes are taken with TA, they have to be able to be applied towards another degree level at your school or transferred to another school where they can accept them towards furthering that soldier's education. Jackie, did I miss anything on that?
You did not. That was 100% accurate.
Thank you. Sometimes I just want to check myself.
Understandable. We have another one. I did this process yesterday for the first time and did use the validate option in Army Ignited and got error messages regarding the start dates. I removed the spring 2023 courses and then it went through. Is there a rule of when you can submit courses?
So they need to be after the class has ended. I'm not sure why you had to remove spring because most of that has ended. So there may be a bug. I'll be very honest. We're still working through some of these. So I would recommend please reach back out with that feedback at the top of TA Simplified. If you reach back up here where the feedback button is at the top, I promise you, I can tell you where the email goes, comes to me. Now I will farm it out to my team, but I can 100% guarantee you I get it. And I will ask my team to reach out and we'll take a look at the file and see if maybe there's something that we can assist with for correcting it so it will go through.
I'm going to interject one second. So I think she said it was spring 2023 classes. The system is blocking any FY 2023 classes right now. So 1 October and beyond should not be accepting if that wasn't a typo. It might have been a typo for the date.
Thank you. Good catch.
Another question is, I logged in late and may have missed this information. Is the school number also an OPEID number? If so, will I need to include the leading zeros?
Yes, everything in the system is based on OPEID. And so the leading zeros are part of the file. And many times if you're building the file on your own, that's the culprit for why your files are not going in. There's a specific way to build the file and then save it without opening it so that you can upload it into Army Ignited. Again, in the knowledge community, there are videos that Mr. Bice did prior to TA Simplified coming on board that walk you through how to build the file on your own. It's faster through here, but you can obviously, we're not going to prevent you. And I always like to put a caveat out there. There's no money for this. You're not paying for this. And Army has already paid us. And so we are not charging anything. That is not the intent of this. The intent of this tool was to assist schools. So I have many schools trying to do these on their own, and that's perfect. And you may have an IT department to help you. And I applaud that. But a lot of even my large schools will come in here and do one-offs because it's faster and easier to get the file built correctly and uploaded. But to the question, yes, your school number is your OPEID. All numbers, leading zeros and ending zeros, must be in there. And that goes for Social Security numbers. Some of your soldiers may have a 0 in the first part of their Social Security number. It also goes for your course numbers. If your course number is a developmental course, it may be 0100. Anything with a 0 will drop off on those files when you try to submit them, which ends back to why we built this. One other point, and I just want to point out, I meant to when I was talking about creating your account. Because we've worked with the schools, because we've been a part of the schools, one of the things that we did is these are not individual accounts, these are school accounts. So when we built this, our developer built it that when you type in your OPEID, so if Joshua's in there under his, and Sarah works at Kent State as well, and she's created an account, Joshua can start working, Sarah can come in and help. Let's say he went on vacation, maternity, paternity leave, any reason that they've had to stop work on a file, your colleagues can come back in, pick up where you left off, do the grade file, do any of the work. All of it stays the same because it's listed under OPEID. So that was one of ours. Instead of having everything be based on a person, it is based on your school.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the question earlier about the diploma, the responses there are they are a 2-year degree with a diploma. They can take a national accreditation program, for example, diploma in practical nursing.
Honestly, I would say please email. You can email me directly and I'll forward it up to policy up at headquarters. That's not something that at my level I can make that decision or be able to say the best way to put it through. There's such a fine line between those credentialing programs and ones that are actually tuition assistance programs.
And the last one that we currently have is referring to the course number and enrollment. I'm referring to the future course enrollment, not past. But Jacqueline, I believe you said October, people can't do anything with that yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, the system should be blocking anything 1 October 2022 and beyond.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, Rick and Mr. Joshua, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rick Williams. I'm the Associate Director for Veterans Affairs at Youngstown State University, and we're not quite as large as Kent State. They're about 3 times our size or bigger. So he's going to defer to me first, and then he'll he'll bring up the end. But I'm just going to tell you that I only started using TA Simplified just a few months ago. Stephanie was so kind to personally do a little webinar for me and show me how it works. And we have about 300 veterans at Youngstown State, and maybe 25 to 30 use TA, Army TA. So it's easier for me to put out an email to our students and let them know if you're going to use TA, please send me an email. Let me know you want your enrollment file uploaded. And then usually about 30 to 45 days out, I will take that list of maybe 20 students and I'll put a ticket through our IT department, and they've already built a report that pulls all that information in the exact format that Army Ignited wants it, and they upload the file for me. Where TA Simplified comes in for me is if a student comes back after I've uploaded those enrollment files and says, hey, I dropped this course and I added this new one, or somebody comes in after I've done the large upload of 20 students, rather than put a new ticket in through IT and say, hey, can you fix this one file for this student, or upload an enrollment file for this one student. In that case, it's easy for me to just bring open TA Simplified, build the file myself, upload it, instead of waiting on our IT department to do that. So that's where TA Simplified has really helped me. I suppose if I had the manpower and the time, I could use TA Simplified for all 25 of my students that are using Army Ignited and just build the files myself. If each student has 4 or 5 classes, it might take me several hours to do that, but I only use it for the onesies and twosies situations. And maybe Josh has a different way he does it, but that's how I do it at Youngstown State. And it has been a godsend, TA Simplified, as Stephanie's been a godsend for me. I don't know if there's any questions, but I just wanted to share my experience with TA Simplified so far. And if not, I'll go ahead and defer to Josh.
All right. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we're certainly right down the road from Youngstown State. We'll have about, probably in that neighborhood of, 75 to 100 students that will submit through Ignited in a given full term, a fall or spring term. Summer, of course, it's certainly much less. But I actually found out about Ignited, again, several months ago. I don't have anyone loading up my files for me. So I was, as I like to tell people, I was the institution's highest paid data entry professional, probably in the history of the institution. So what I was doing, and so the old site, I'd like to ask with a show of hands first also, you can raise them and put them back down, of course. How many people are using loading your own files, loading your own enrollment files? If we could get you to use the raise the hand function there at the bottom of the page, just so I can take a look and get kind of an idea here. Insert Jeopardy theme here. Everybody's using TA Simplified at this point in time. That's good, because it looks like it, because I was going to ask, why are you doing that? Why are you not using it? Because with the old format, as Stephanie was stating, it's an Excel document that you had to get the naming convention right on, that it had to be saved in a certain manner, that every single field had to be entered appropriately. If, for example, you're entering WW for a field, and one of those was lowercase and one of those was uppercase, it's going to reject that line, right? And then you're going to get a little notepad. It's going to send you a little notepad file, which nobody uses Notepad, but it sends you a little Notepad email, right? And it tells you have to go sift through this thing line by line to try and figure out what you've done wrong. And it's separated, run on, set, and style with semicolons. And so we've all been there, right? I guarantee that we've all been there. But what the TA Simplified piece does is it loads it. Now, granted, it's loading it line by line. You're loading it class by class. And if one student has 5 enrollments, for example, if I can kind of steer here for a second. Grab some screen sharing here and I'll jump in. But like, so in general, what it's going to do is it's going to take it line by line. Now, granted, you're not able to see everybody on the same screen at the same time. You're not going to be able to load into the Excel document all at once, but you're going to be able to load them at the end, as Stephanie said, and you're able to view it in a drop-down format. Before, there was a, you went on to the Ignited site and you downloaded one of the videos, right? You listened to a couple 15-minute videos, and then you downloaded a PDF. If I could grab sharing, that would be killer. Thank you. So let's just go into here. Let's go into here. Yeah, there it is. There's Ignited, right? So you would have to come in here. You still have to do the degree management piece, of course, right? That's still there. But there's that nice little pop-up block that tells you exactly how to do that. But you had to come over here to support, find a training block. Let's see, you go down here and you go to education institutions, and then you share this document that you're going to pull up. There was a training guide in here that I will share with you. If any of you remember this, grab it real quickly. All right, we're reviewing that. Tell me if I'm, no, we'll try it here. All right, well, I am not able to necessarily share it, but there was a training document that would pop up, and it was a PDF that was really just a PowerPoint that you would scroll through, and then you would have to figure out how to code that line by line by line by line by line. There's abbreviations for everything. TIA Simplified took all the abbreviations and it put them into simple drop-down format, right? And so it doesn't mean you can't have a data entry error, right? It doesn't mean that you can't transpose digits. It's still data entry. Don't get me wrong. There we go. There it is. There it is. Yeah. How many people here are programmers or remember doing DOS-based programming, right? That's maybe one of us, right? So like, there we go. That's it. That's it. This is just logic. This is just logic-based programming, right? And none of us are programmers. So what TA Simplified does is it makes it a more accessible portal, more usable portal for us. And so I found out about it, and my times went from processing per student about 15 minutes per student just to enter them in there. And if you have 100, that's a lot of time, right? That's a lot of time. It's to about 5 minutes, being able to rip through these, print up the schedule, put in the information, fly through these and be able to submit them very quickly. Now it's not perfect, right? As Stephanie said, there's still glitches and there are still errors in it. But what it's going to do is it's going to produce this file that you're looking at here, but it's going to fill it in for you. What do you not ever want to do? Once you go ahead and you put in that enrollment file, once you create that enrollment file, don't open it. Do not open it. Just go ahead in and put it through validate, put it through the upload, and then it should be good. I've not had it kick back on me yet with any errors, but I'll knock on knock on wood there. But so that is one of my things that I have done. I kind of second guessed it, and I went in and I opened it, and then it puts everything back as it converts it away from text or whatever the craziness that you had to do. And it takes off those, for example, the first 2 digits are 00 of our OPEID number. Those are going to be gone, right? Those are going to be immediately gone, and it's an error. So that's one of the things with TA Simplified. That's a tip. It works. It just works. Just go ahead and trust what it's doing and put it in there. So that's one. The other piece, if you are talking to any other colleagues, honestly, I mean, and they're struggling with it, it works. Okay. If you're doing the old format, it does work. But the chance for human error is even increased more if you're still doing the old Excel file. And I don't know about you, but I don't have the time to kind of do that kind of stuff. Nor do I have the time to listen to, 30-minute narrated PowerPoints, and I can't do it. So this is fantastic. This is a fantastic product. And I can tell you that Stephanie and her team are very responsive when there are questions that can't be answered through the Mighty Network, right? When there are issues that aren't like able to be scrolled down through. And I can attest to that. Like when I reach out, I feel like I've reached out because something is like broken, right? There's a student who we've submitted months ago and they haven't been paid. For example, Stephanie and I had that conversation the other day, like, why might somebody have not been paid when they've been in there for months? And we did some searching and we did some training on, going through the finance tab and kind of and really kind of being able to take a peek at that. Which if you are doing another tip, if you are doing a lot of work with your bursar's office and you're not in the bursar, right? But you have to do the entry, might be a great idea to get that finance tab if possible, because it allows you to go in and take a look at invoices. I don't have a test mode, so I don't want to pull it up and then just show everybody's money here. But that is a huge asset for you to be able to go in and be able to double check when your bursar reaches out to you and says, hey, why haven't they been paid? Well, it's in the queue, right? It's on this next payment file. It's going to be invoiced blank date. But so, that isn't necessarily something you can necessarily look at through the Mighty Network in general. So that's when Stephanie's team comes in there for those very specific pieces of information. I'm certainly open to any questions anybody wants to ask at all.
Thank you so much, Joshua. We appreciate your feedback. We do have some questions here in the question and answer box. One is, I've submitted enrollment and student degree plan for a student, and the student is not seeing any updates to their TA. They've spoken to the education center at our local Army installation, and a representative says the process is held up with the school. There is something else it is waiting on, but I'm unable to see what it is. Is there a place where I can follow a process and troubleshoot my own process? Thank you in advance.
So I saw that question and thank you. We get that a lot. When your students log in, their dashboard is completely different. And one of the things you can do under the training materials, if you kind of want to see what the soldiers look is, under student soldiers, there is I think it's under getting started. No, it's the interactive training guide. It will actually take you out to a link and it will show you the actual screens your soldiers have and what they're using. So this interactive training guide, there's one for each one of the different categories, but it will show you. But to answer your question while this is deciding to load, is under here, under the welcome, comma, their name, we all have the same setup. They're going to go to account. When they click account, then they will actually see their profile, the same profile you can see when you go to student search, and it'll pull up the profile and you'll see the enrolled classes. As long as you're seeing the enrolled classes, and I would show you, but this is live student data, as long as you can see that the classes are there. The other thing, when you scroll down into where it says enrolled classes, you have to go to the far link that says view all courses and grades. That will pull up the full list. Okay, so your students don't see the same view we do. Your soldiers don't. So they need to go to the welcome, click account, and then they will see the same school profile or soldier profile view that you do. They'll see the enrolled classes and they'll be able to then navigate through the different processes they have.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, this might be a good pop quiz question for all of you. How long has TA Simplified been live?
So we were contracted by Army in September of last year, late September, like the 30th. And within 6 weeks, we had the front part of TA Simplified. We had the static, the degree file, and the enrollment file. Took it a little longer for us. We were ironing out bugs, making sure this worked. And then in about 2 weeks ago, we were able to launch the grade file. So all 4 files are there. We do not have student degree plan file or the graduation file. Both of those are not required at this time. If schools can build them, we're great. We prefer you not load graduation at this time. It is causing a few errors in the invoicing side. So those 2 files are not on the inventory for TA Simplified. So November, about the 11th of November, we went live with the original TA Simplified, and we added the grade file just a few weeks ago.
Right. TA Simplified would be hard for schools that have 200 to 300 enrollments per term, right?
Joshua, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I would say so. One question for Missy, I believe it was, do you have somebody then, if you have somebody that's uploading the file for you, right? Like if you have the registrar able to prepare a file and be able to drop it into that template, then they're doing really the work of TA Simplified for you. And then that'd be very easy then for you. You just have to make sure that it validates and you roll with it, right? If you don't, and you're data entering 200 to, let's call it 250 students, and let's call it 4 courses per student, that's 1,000 lines on that Excel spreadsheet. Or multiple spreadsheets. You're going to want to bust that up into 3 of those, maybe 4 of those. That is, boy, there's a large chance for error. I would say it's the opposite. I would say, obviously, if you have a registrar that has built a crosswalk and they're able to help upload that, awesome, great, go with that. If not, then TA Simplified would be better, because it's going to be a lot simpler just to upload those and a lot more clear, less chance for human error. I think that's just my 2 cents.
That makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Joshua.
You're doing it all. Yeah.
Why does the enrollment file need the course registration date? Seems unnecessary to the entire process, and it was not required in previous Go Army Ed system.
The enrollment date serves a purpose because according to the Department of Defense Memorandum of Understanding, and here's my policy hat, all classes that the soldier is requesting must be approved prior to the start date of the class. So the system requires those registration dates so we can see, did they try to enroll at least 5 business days prior to the start date? And that falls in with our exception to policy rules. So there are reasons for having those registration dates. We would like them as close to reality as possible. So as you're moving forward with those at least 10 days out, all that data information should be as accurate as possible. There are times where we'll make a few little exceptions here and there with the past start dates because we're trying to get you all paid. But in reality, all of this should be as accurate as possible.
Great. And if another question is, if we open the CSV file in Notepad or another text reader, this will not interfere with the file formatting, correct?
That's correct. And you can make all changes in Notepad and you can save in Notepad. In fact, I think Rick and I worked through a couple of them through Notepad, maybe Joshua and I as well. So we do use Notepad. Notepad will not change anything, but a lot of folks aren't aware of how to use Notepad or what Notepad is.
Great, thank you. And Marjorie responded, she's doing it all. So she's doing all those for the 200 to 300. Yeah, I saw the paint. Look at Rick and Josh's face. It's like, oh no. So yeah. So Marjorie is handling it all. So
and
Marjorie, you
those are
must have
tough.
some superpowers.
I'm going to share just for reference sake, this is the course enrollment file. Just that you can see. So when she's saying she's doing this for all 100, 200, every single one of these columns and boxes requires information. Some of it we build. So if you're looking at TA Simplified and you're like, well, wait, you didn't ask for the title twice. That's because our developer on the back end knows the title and we can put it in the second column. So we took out some of the questions that you didn't need to answer and we backfilled it in here. But for the most part, like your OPE ID, sorry, we already asked for that when you registered the account. So we build it into the file when you're building the files. So we actually do a lot of backend. But like Joshua and Rick pointed out, if you have an IT department helping you, that's great. TA Simplified really was thought of for our schools with about 100 enrollments and less. But I have seen, like I said, Post, Liberty, some of our very large schools use it for one-offs, like Rick was saying. He'll come in here and just do one-offs, and that's fine. You know, it's a tool to assist you. So yes, there is some time to it, but there's even more time to build this file. Make sure it's correct. make sure you didn't open it after you saved it in the correct formatting. If you've gotten into the groove and things are working, then by all means continue that. But TA Simplified will cut back. If this takes you 5, 6, 7 minutes to do, you'll do it in a minute or two using TA Simplified. So it's honestly, you have to decide, is my time more valuable, or is it, I want to do this by this file build? It really is your choice.
Well, it's always great to have options.
Exactly.
So,
There's no pressure to use it. Like I said, we're not getting paid for it. We already got paid.
great. Do we have any other questions from any of our viewers? All right, we had originally scheduled this for an hour and a half, just in case we had lots of questions. But it looks like we're so good so far. But as far as takeaways, Rick, could you tell me one takeaway that you hope folks who are viewing today, the message that they can take with them? Oh, and you're on mute.
Yeah, as a takeaway, I would get in, if you haven't been into TA Simplified yet, I would get in there and take a look at it. Try a couple on your own. And once you actually build a couple of enrollment files or grade files and upload them, you won't truly know how easy it is. It may seem, the first time that Stephanie ran this through with me, it seemed a little complicated, but after I did it myself, I realized, wow, this is really easy. In fact, if I only have 10 or 15 students using TA, I may just try and do them all and cut my IT department completely out. Because sometimes we're not always a priority with our IT department. So it might just be easier for me to sit down and do these all myself through TA Simplified.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Again, it's always good to have as many options as possible. And we did have another question come up for one of our viewers. I submit enrollment files with complete validations and successful uploads with no error emails, but don't see the files on the student files. Why is this?
It really, I wish I could speak in generality for some of these, but in all honesty, they're pretty specific. So I would highly encourage you reach out to either knowledge community, to one of us through an email. If you give it to me directly, it may be me or one of the team members who reaches back, but we can then take a look and see. Most of the time, and I really want to point out, validation is a false sense of security. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. Validation is that they're validating you submitted a CSV file and it has something on it. Doesn't matter what it is, it just has something on it. Overnight, when that file is ingested into Army Ignited, it is then reviewed for content. And if anything in those columns or in those rows, or if you use the wrong header row, it will reject that file. So there are so many nuances with these that, yes, you may have validated, and I get that question all the time. I validated, but I got an error report. Yes, it validated because it said, yeah, you gave us a CSV file and there's something on it. But when it went into the system, some kind of an error happened. And so with those, it's really best to reach out to our team, especially if you get the error report message, because like Joshua said, they're not always easy to interpret, and it's not easy to decide what piece of this information wasn't correct. The other problem with the error file is if you submitted a course enrollment file and then a soldier came in and you built another one and you uploaded it, that's fine. They'll take it, but they merge it into one. So when you get an error and says row 3, SSN doesn't exist, well, you don't know which file row 3 had been because they merged them into one. So there's a lot of little nuances. So when you get those or you're not seeing them and you've gone to the soldier's record, you've gone to enrolled classes and click these view all, if it's not there, then something errored. The other problem that we have is the way the error messages are delivered. They go through an Army system. It's not through Army Ignited. And so sometimes that system has been down. Sometimes it's overloaded. There's a variety of regions on the technical side. And again, I'm not technical, but there are times when our schools did not receive those error messages. If you didn't see the class load, if it's not there the next day, something went wrong. reach out to school support. That's what we're here for. And we will help figure out what happened and either have you redo it or try to look at your file. We will try to do our due diligence.
Great, thank you. Mr. Joshua, any parting words of wisdom that you hope folks take with them today?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if TA Simplified, it may not be for you. I think that it probably is in general, though, however, because as we're looking at this, again, this Excel document here, this took us a long time as like an institution of some people that know how to submit files, because we've submitted a few files at Kent State before for different things. And it took some time to be able to figure that out to why it's rejecting it, right? And so the TA Simplified has changed our process, and it stops when I look at it, it stops the go back. It stops the investigation, right? Like the next day or the day after, when you're going back through trying to basically do your work twice, right? So it prevents you having to do that work twice. And I think that's one piece. And I think also, kind of following around on different discussion groups. There's MHEC, but there's folks in, doing great work in NAVPA, in other formats as well with that might have some tips and tricks also. So, kind of be a student of the game and kind of get out there, elevate vets, discourse network, those kind of things. Very good stuff.
Thank you. And the two things that really hit home for me, again, is any questions, concerns, reach out to the folks at the Army School Support and use that knowledge community. I joined it a couple of weeks ago, and it's amazing. And they're really responsive on that. And 0 is a number, and it needs to be included. So that was my other lesson learned today. Zeros do count. So again, make sure you include those in your documents. Stephanie, I'll let you wrap it up. What about you? What do you hope folks take away today and hope that they can utilize?
My biggest takeaway is, please know the Army School Support team has been here. We are still here. We will be here. I often hear from schools that say, I didn't know you all existed. I'm like, wow, I've really been beating the streets for this. So please, if you run into a colleague, or like Joshua said, there's so many different organizations and listservs and everything else. You all are not alone. And please know, anything that you send to me, if my team and I cannot address it, I have a direct link to headquarters access. So whenever we get stumped, whenever you all throw me a ball and I go, I got nothing, that's in all honesty. I will be transparent and honest with you. I am not here to sugarcoat it, because I know what it's like to be in the schools, and I know your time is valuable, and I understand that. I many times had lines of students outside my door, and I'm trying to work on something else, and you have to stop and start, and you lose your train of thought. The nice thing I can tell you is that TA Simplified was built with all of that in mind. You can start and stop, come back. You don't need to delete records. We are going to install an archive system at some point so that those lists get shorter for you all. Each time we hear things, we work with it. We find ways. We added that download button so that you knew which ones were downloaded and which ones weren't. We're always trying to improve it to help you. This team is so committed to you all, because we all know that with you all, the soldiers are getting their education. So we don't want the soldiers penalized for something that we can assist to make better. Army feels the same way. So please pass along our contact, our webpage, the knowledge community, whatever it is you need. We are here to assist you, and we appreciate everything you do. We appreciate Army. We know this has been the biggest test of patience. We know it goes on all sides, but all of us together, we have seen such a dramatic change in the last few months, even with the system. And we realize, and I'm not taking questions about it, but we know we're changing, and with change comes fun. So we will ride this together. We're hoping for a bright future. So my parting comment is to say thank you. Thank you for the time today. Thank you for allowing me to demonstrate the tool. I appreciate all the kind words. If you have any issues with it, please use that feedback button so we can address them and get them fixed.
Awesome.
My last comment is Jackie had to drop off. she had something, she got called into a meeting quickly. So she wanted me to say thank you. Thank you on behalf of Headquarters Access, on behalf of her and the team that up there at headquarters. They really do appreciate everything. And she was very, very excited to be able to attend today as well.
Good. Well, I want to thank you and our guests, Rick and Joshua, as well as Jacqueline. Glad she could join in and be a bonus today. Just as a reminder, the recording will be posted to the MEC website, as well as some additional resources. Again, thank you all, and we hope to see you on the next webinar. Have a good afternoon.